Hey all, if you enjoyed this, then be sure to head on over to our Patreon to help support the team.
Last time on Dragon Ball DC. The invasion of Earth carried out by the last Saiyans was stopped by the Justice League, but at the cost of 2 cities and League founders. Now, as the leader of the Saiyans is being held prisoner on Earth, the survivors contemplate a small hope provided by a rookie Green Lantern named Kyle Rayner.
Kyle Rayner exited the bar's back door, heading into the alleyway to get some air. The news report of Coast City's destruction had shaken him. He was an artist. He was used to imagining the impossible, but all those people wiped out so quickly, for no reason at all. He didn't know how to even fathom such a thing.
It's going to be alright. Someone's going to know what to do.
Kyle's vision was suddenly engulfed by a burst of emerald light. The Guardian, Ganfet, now floating above him. We haven't got much time, so I suppose you'll do. It has been a week since the attack of the Saiyans. The people of Earth have begun to rebuild, but the losses that day have been etched into the planet and its heroes. Enraged by Aquaman's death, his queen Mera demanded Arthur's seat on the Justice League. Prince Vegeta is now imprisoned in Themyscira, being too powerful for even the strongest of meta-human jails to contain him. Wonder Woman hopes to learn more about the true purpose behind the attack from him, but the decision has been a point of controversy, with Lex Luthor stoking the fires of people demanding the Saiyan be brought to their idea of justice. This anti-Saiyan rhetoric has also impacted Kakarot's life. No longer being able to go on his usual patrols without people heckling him on sight. Kakarot understood why people were reacting this way, but it meant he had to reevaluate just how he was going to keep helping people who didn't want anything to do with him. The Daily Planet was the only paper to still attempt to highlight his good deeds, but even the mighty pen of Lois Lane couldn't change the fact that Kakarot was going to be forever associated with one of the greatest tragedies in history. Everyone had lost something that day, but there was a chance to put things right, thanks to Kyle Rayner.
So then, after he told me about the core, Ganthet mentioned something about these things called entities. That if they'd been able to use all of them together, all the destruction could have been undone. I tried to press him further, but he never mentioned it again. He looked guilty. I know this isn't much, but this guy's a guardian of the universe, and, well, I can't help but feel there has to be something to it.
You're asking us to scour the entire universe on a feeling.
Please. With my ships, you could search galaxies in a day. It's hardly an issue.
Don't test me, Luthor. After the stunt you pulled against the Saiyans, you're lucky to not be in a jail cell.
I already disproved your little allegations, but if we're throwing them around, I'm sure I can think of a few of your secrets we can share.
Gentlemen, now is not the time. I can attest to what the Green Lantern saw. The boy's memories do not lie, and I have heard whispers of such beings in my lifetime.
Even so, Jean, this is bringing people back from the dead. Isn't that a little above our pay grade?
If even the slightest chance of reviving Arthur exists, nothing will stop me. Even death.
It seems another of my mistakes is having unforeseen consequences. My apologies. The Guardian appeared in the Hall of Justice meeting room without warning, having suspected Carl may try to act on his slip-up in mentioning the entities. Given the information was now in the open, he felt it was his duty to explain to the League the impossibility of such a task. Long ago, the white light was shattered by the darkness into the 7 feelings of the emotional spectrum. This led to life being generated across the universe, beginning on Earth. As sentient beings began to rise, 7 of them were the first to tap into the energy and corresponding light of the emotions, thus being transformed into cosmic-level entities of staggering power. The Butcher, embodying rage. Ophidian, avarice. Parallax, fear. Ion, willpower. Adara, hope. Proselyte, compassion. And the Predator, love. Ganthet theorized that should all the beings be brought together, It could reignite the white light of life and bring back those killed that day.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen people come back. I mean, we thought you were dead, Kakarot, until you showed up in new duds and spiky hair. Hair.
Yep, we have to give it a shot. Plus, if there's these crazy strong beings out there, I really want to meet them. What's there to lose?
Everything we have left. I don't think you understand. We just took the biggest hit to our defenses in history thanks to your family reunion. Now the planet is going to be vulnerable, and if this Darkseid, or anyone else with a basic understanding of strategic timing decides to launch another strike while we're off-world, who's going to stop them?
Me. I will be staying behind, and with the help of our remaining allies, the world shall be guarded from threats within and without. You have my word. In my stead, John shall lead this odyssey.
The Martian Manhunter was taken back at first by the offer, but humbly accepted leadership for the time being. Lex Luthor requested to stay behind too, under the pretense of focusing on the rebuilding efforts he was funding, when really, he saw this as exactly the type of opportunity Batman was worried about. Luthor was already being viewed as the hero that saved Earth, but now he could cement that in the public's mind with the League being gone. For the next 3 days, the heroes prepared, doing their best to ensure that any lingering threats were dealt with before they set off on their journey. Kakarot first asked Jimmy Olsen if he wanted to look after the farm, but Jimmy was busy fighting demons in another dimension, so he then had to default to Lady Shiva. She was intrigued at the offer, a new challenge she hadn't considered, and decided to ensure that she would pull some connections to make sure it would be taken care of, so long as he showed her his new improvements. Kakarot ignited his Wrathform aura, nearly destroying the room they were in from the sudden burst of ki. Lady Shiva noted that there was an increase in power, but in her opinion, the threat of losing control made the form useless in her mind. He was not in balance. A beast's rage was not the same as a man's. Primal anger was a fleeting thing. To sincerely find balance, Kakarot would need true, spiritual fury. She believed his form was a mere stepping stone, and that Kakarot had yet to fully find what suited him best.
You are a curious thing to me, warrior. You are the only person I've ever met who enjoys combat more than I, and yet we cannot agree on its use.
Well, you hurt people for money.
No, I kill people for money. We've had this conversation many times. I respect that you have your path and I walk mine. You are one of the few people who know that you must learn to heal if you are to learn to harm, lest the harm be crude. It is why you interest me. But I must ensure before you leave Earth that you understand my meaning. You were beaten by this Vegeta. The only reason you live is due to the assistance of your allies. Luck. As you leave Earth, you are going to run into someone who is going to fight to kill you. Someone who can do it, if you choose to rely on this artificial rage, this false sense of balance that you've created, and fall. Then I will mourn you, Kakarot Kent. But it will not be for long. The
Justice League was finally ready to begin their search, the first stop on their journey being the Vega system, specifically the planet Okara, where they saw Ophidian, entity of avarice, source of the orange light. The Guardian Ganfet informed them of the location and the dangers of its owner, Agent Orange, the only member of the Orange Lantern Corps and one of the strongest beings in the universe. He was volatile, but not impossible to negotiate with, the Guardians having done so in the past, so long as they gave him something he would want. After a few days' journey, the League arrived on the planet, deciding to have Flash and Kakarot scour the planet first, as they were the fastest. The two stumbled upon a suspicious cave system, and upon entering it, were greeted by a terrible smell. The pair dove deeper, with Kakarot sensing an enormous concentration of energy from within, which they finally saw at the top of what looked like a shrine. The orange power battery.
I didn't think it'd be so beautiful.
The pair felt drawn to the battery, a growing desire to have it building within them. They needed it for the people they lost. No, they needed it for themselves. They had to have it. Before Kakarot and Flash could act on this overwhelming greed, they were smacked aside by a legion of strange alien creatures.
That's mine!
The creatures were in fact Larfleeze's core, or rather, his constructs, people he had slain that now obeyed his will, as Orange Lanterns. Kakarot and Flash quickly responded, taking on the army as best they could. Kakarot was able to dispatch them quickly, punching his way towards Larfleeze himself. But the numbers were overwhelming, and it seemed that even ancient Saiyans were among his core. Larfleeze recognizing that Kakarot was a Saiyan as his rings scanned the pair of thieves. Kakarot was forced to unleash his wrath form, the glowing green energy blasting back the constructs for a moment, with Larfleeze's eyes widening at the sight.
A Super Saiyan? After all these centuries, you shall be mine, oh mythic monkey!
Huh? Super Saiyan? Sorry, but I don't know what that is. I'm just a Saiyan raised on Earth.
Oh wait, no. The Super Saiyan is meant to be different, isn't it? Never mind. I've never seen that before either, so give it to me!
Kakarot tried to ward off Larfleeze's attack. However, Wally had managed to take the opportunity during the fight to steal Larfleeze's power battery, holding it near the edge of the cave, in front of the Orange Lantern.
Hold on! We're only here for the thing you've got inside this. We're not here to fight.
You speak of Ophidian the Tempter? No! I'll kill you for taking my stuff!
As Larfleeze prepared to strike again, Kakarot quickly darted between them, asking Flash to give the lantern back to Larfleeze, then proposing something better.
You like having good things, right?
I like having all the good things!
Well, how about the best thing? Like better than anything you got here?
You insult my prized collection, Simeon! Ha! How can I know someone like you has any idea what such a fabled best ever thing would be?
Got any food?
Larfleeze snapped his fingers, summoning a strange, spherical creature.
Glomulus! Prepare what the Earthlings call snacks!
A few hours passed, and the rest of the League arrived, after being informed of the situation by Flash, only to be greeted by a most peculiar sight. Larfleeze, belly fit to burst, his arms struggling to lift themselves to grab anything more from his plate, despite every fibre of his being wishing to. On the other side of the feast hall, Kakarot, happily devouring his meal, an inconceivable amount of discarded plates beside him.
You know, this food looks kinda weird, but it tastes great! More, please!
I have never seen someone consume so much with no end in sight, Saiyan. I think we might be almost friends. What is this best thing you want, so that I can take it?
It's going on a mystical adventure!
An adventure? Very well, you will all join me on my new adventure then. Yes, soon it will all be within my grasp!
With Larfleeze and the Avarice entity joining them, the League decided to split up into 3 teams to cover more ground, as the locations of the rest of the entities were unknown. However, with both green and orange energy, Hawkgirl was able to use the nth metal in her wings to harmonize a similar set of frequencies, allowing their ships to detect if they stumbled upon any other sources from the emotional spectrum. 2 weeks passed, and seemingly nothing was happening. Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter were relieved that they had at least been put together on a team, as even with nothing to do, having each other's company was something. That is, it would have been, had they not been saddled with taking Larfleeze along. Martian Manhunter's mental powers being the only way to calm the lantern, albeit only slightly.
This is infuriating! It feels like it's been eons, and yet adventure still eludes my grasp!
Despite Larfleeze's occasional outburst, he mostly kept to his own quarters, his paranoia helping to give Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl some semblance of privacy.
I know you think I'm a bad person.
Kendra?
With how I feel about Saiyans. Look, I know it's stupid. Kakarot he's a good guy. He's a moron, but he's good. I can understand that. It's just when you've lived so many different lives, and so many of them have been killed by a single group of people. It's hard to shake.
I do sympathize, Kendra. I am no stranger to misjudging those based on the actions of a people. But I am also a victim of it. Kakarot is trying to redefine what the Saiyan legacy is, and I believe it is our duty to help.
Before their conversation could go any further, their attention shifted to the radar screen blipping in the coordinates of a planet they were approaching.
Larfleeze, I need you to stay and protect your ship. It would be disastrous if someone stole it from you while we were away.
Yes, of course! I won't let them near all my shiny new stuff! The LexCorp kitchen utensils are mine, and mine alone!
The pair landed and were greeted by the Indigo tribe, who inquired as to how they were discovered. The duo explained their search for the entities and how it brought them to this place. Martian Manhunter attempted to scan their minds, only to feel an overwhelming amount of compassion, so much so that it was forcibly changing every member of the tribe who would otherwise be psychopathic.
Kendra, I want you to ask them to convert me to the tribe. I won't have any sense of self in a moment.
Deciding that this would be the only way to summon the entity, John used his shape-shifting to alter his brain chemistry to a state of insanity. Kendra begged the tribe to help John, and without hesitation, they brought John into the core to tame him. With some sense of self recovered, John then linked his mind to all the Indigo tribe present, enhancing how every single one of them was feeling to an even more extreme degree. The task was overwhelming, but before his mind reached its breaking point, the entity proselyte emerged in the sky above them, diving into John and making him its host. Kendra quickly wrapped John in her wings, hoping, praying, that the properties at play would at least aid him somewhat in his fight to gain control. The Indigo tribe was in shock at the psychic power on display, while John slowly but surely rose to his feet, his mind reshaping itself and attempting to take control back to its normal state.
Oh my god, Jean! How did you know you could pull that off?
Knowing you were there to catch me if I fell allowed me the courage to step off the edge.
Things were not as successful for the team of Flash and Mirror. They had arrived on the planet after their ship system had suddenly changed course, but decided to search the area once the radar did pick up energy from the emotional spectrum. However, the planet in question was not one to be taken lightly. They were on Warworld, hiding in the stands of the gladiatorial arena, while Mongol stood in his high throne, announcing the next round of carnage.
Are you sure this is where we need to be right now? I am prepared to face that tyrant myself and beat the answers from him.
Easy, She-Ra. If we're here to find a big scary cosmic thing, Mongol's not going to be the kind of guy to hide the fact he's got it. There's bound to be someone here who's heard him gloat while he's drunk or something. So let's wait a while before taking on an entire planet.
Mongol rose to his feet, eating up the applause that came his way.
Now with the feeble appetizers out of the way, I know why you're all here. First, the challenger, the king of the ring, Maito! Having quickly rose through the ranks, will he be the one to dethrone the champion?
Mara gasped at the mention of the name Maito, feeling that now her plan of brute force would be tricky and unexpected if he was in Mongol's employ.
You know this guy?
Through reputation. A few years ago, Diana had engaged in an intergalactic boxing match with him to save a young girl's life. She said it was one of the most grueling battles she'd ever experienced.
Mongol continued to list off Maito's victories before signaling his minions to open the other contestants' gate.
But can any of that have prepared him for the unstoppable beast of might? The monster of a man? Our very own legendary.
Mongol was cut off by a shockwave that could be felt by everyone in the stands. Maito was down, defeated in a single instantaneous blow. And now, standing above him, was a tall, dark-haired man with a blank expression.
Broly!
Deep in the depths of space, on a volcanic planet, stood two beings. One was a construct, a mere shadow of someone using it to communicate over long distances. And the other was the killer of the most powerful warrior race the universe had ever seen. Rogol Zar lives.
If you choose to do this, there's not going to be a way back. I won't be able to protect—
Rogol Zar glared at the construct, and it rephrased its words.
You won't be able to stay here. I am truly grateful for the tasks you performed for me over the years, old friend. You've toppled tyrants, quelled rebellions, crushed gods beneath your boot heel. Even the Guardians themselves have kept their mouths shut about your deeds from the fear you inspire.
The warrior stood to his feet, his gigantic frame towering over the construct, his body showing both his age and every battle fought.
You've been at peace for so long. Why come back into this game once again? Why now?
Rogolzar activated a holo projector on his wrist, showing the report from Earth of the Saiyans' arrival, then switching it to a feed of one of his drones tracking the ship Kakarot, Kyle, and Batman were piloting. Meanwhile, Flash and Mera had managed to sneak into the living quarters of Mongol slaves. Some fighters, some workforce, most both. During the closing remarks after Broly's overwhelming victory, Mongol made a sly remark that even the mighty Broly was but one of the beasts of rage he had in his grasp. Deducing that this must be referring to the entity, the pair theorized that something so powerful would be kept where the rest of the monsters slept. Deciding to speed things up, Wally ran the length of the dwellings, his interest piqued by a giant mechanical gate in the lower levels. The Flash's moves were too fast for anyone's eyes to pick up. That is, except for the mountain of a man suddenly appearing before him, stopping Wally in his tracks.
Excuse me, are you lost?
Wally expected to have to fight, but despite his performance in the arena earlier, Broly was a gentle giant. Having only stopped the Flash, since Broly had never seen him around before, and judging by how frantically he was moving, the Saiyan assumed he must be searching for the bathroom or something. After reuniting with Mera in a safe location, the Leaguers decided to question Broly to see if he could help them locate the entity.
I've been here all my life. When I was very small, I was found by Father. Those days were good. But then, the Lord of Warworld found us, and I've been fighting here ever since.
Why not just, beat the snot out of him?
Broly shook his head before continuing to speak.
No! He has my father! Should I raise my hand against Mongol, Father will be killed.
Mera could see the pain in Broly's eyes as he spoke. It was striking how much he felt more akin to a shark than a humanoid. As Flash had told her, he was a gentle soul, but beneath that, she could tell there was something inside the man. Something dark, unstoppable. This feeling would have normally shaken her, but she could no longer afford to be distracted from her mission. Every second she wasted was their chance at reviving those lost, slipping away.
Broly, if I could guarantee your father's safety, would you be able to help us in our mission?
Broly was taken aback by the offer. Kindness was not something he had encountered on Warworld, but he could not shake the doubt that such a thing could be done.
I am sorry. I will try to help, but it is impossible.
Mera turned to Flash and smiled, while Wally's eyes briefly shone with lightning from the speed force, before vanishing instantaneously. Broly looked on in disbelief, as before he had been able to track the Flash's movements with no effort at all. But before he could even comment, the Flash had returned, with Broly's extremely confused father Paragus and Mongol shot collar spinning around his finger, disarmed.
We make a living out of doing the impossible.
Mera noted that with this act, it wouldn't be long until Mongol was alerted, and the three headed towards the gate once again, with Paragus in tow and the Queen of Atlantis directing Flash towards the control panel.
Flash, go through every single possible combination until...
The two quickly turned as a sudden noise shocked them, only to find Broly had used his bare hands to rip open the door.
I like this one.
Deep in the chamber, they finally found what they were looking for. The Butcher, restrained by a combination of mystical and scientific bindings. The entity immediately began to crash against its chains, desperately trying to break free and attach itself to one of the four. They had been briefed on how to contain the entity, but seeing it in person gave Flash pause, questioning how one person would be able to keep their sanity with something like that inside of them. Before a decision could be made, the slightly overwhelmed by the presence of the entity Flash was caught off guard and tasered by Paragus, the old warrior still seeing an opening when he found one. Then, as if on cue, Mongol emerged on the scene, having been alerted to the location by Paragus holding a tracker. Unlike Broly, Paragus' life had been one of luxury on Warworld. While he was aware of Mongol only keeping him around to keep Broly in check, Paragus had managed to scheme his way through the ranks despite that, eventually becoming second only to Mongol himself.
Broly, you stupid boy! How dare you try something like this? My position in our Lord's inner circle would have been thrown to the wayside if I hadn't let him know about your treachery. I should have you killed with these upstarts, but Lord Mongol still values the revenue you bring in, so torture in the pits will have to do.
You son of a... Gah!
Flash was struck by a kick to the jaw by Mongol, while a seething Mera readied herself for battle.
Stand with us, Broly. We can defeat them together.
No! Stop it! You're confusing me!
Mongol laughed as Broly's face twisted in pain. He truly wanted to help his new friends, but he could not disobey his father. While this was happening, the Butcher roared, its dark voice seeping into the minds of everyone around it, harnessing the growing rage and confusion, growing stronger and stronger, until, as it sensed the perfect host finally give in to rage, it broke free from its bonds and dove straight towards Mera?
Fine, I'm through with diplomacy. If you will not listen, then I will rip this entire world apart in the name of my fallen king.
Everyone in the room looked on in awe as Mera was transformed by the Butcher, her power skyrocketing along with her rage. Paragus was blasted back by a sudden kick, and Mongol tried to attack, but Mera leapt towards him like an ocean predator, breaking his jaw with a single uppercut that sent him flying through the ceiling. Flash realized she was out of control and tried to calm her, dodging her rapid blows while attempting to reach the heart of his teammate. But as she kept missing, her rage grew. There seemed to be no stopping her until she was restrained by Broly, who was using his strength to hold her in a full Nelson.
I get like this, don't hurt her! It's not her fault!
Broly struggled, as even his incredible power was being matched by the cosmically possessed Mera.
Mira, look at me. I need you to understand what you're doing. Arthur is gone. Your husband died saving all of us. There's no escaping that. There's no running from it. I know. When Barry died, I was angry too. I blame myself, and it held me back for a long time. I still miss him every day, and I try my best to let him live on through my actions. But you still have a shot to bring Arthur back, and this big dumb entity is trying to stop you from seeing that. It's blinding you with rage, when what we need to hold on to is hope. You're the Queen of Atlantis, Mira. Put your damn foot down and show this thing who's boss!
Mera's screaming expression began to calm, the energy around her slowly but surely beginning to settle into a steady stream around her body. Broly let her go, and Mera finally let the tears she had been holding in ever since her husband died come out.
I just miss him so much, Wally. I don't know what to do.
Flash and Broly brought her into a hug, the trio managing to contain the Butcher.
Me too.
The unlikely friends had returned to their ship. With the entity now in hand, they had to let the others know and continue to find the rest. Despite how much the two wished they could help free the people on the planet, Mera and Flash knew they just didn't have the manpower or the time.
You know, Broly, you could come live with us. Earth would give a much better life than this dump.
Flash is right. Without your help, I fear we could not have completed this task. You are a good man, Broly.
Broly smiled, but his eyes showed the sadness in his response.
I have to stay. I am still needed here. But I hope that one day I could maybe see this Earth. It sounds nice.
For your dad? I hate to say it, but he doesn't care about you, man. The guy's a total tool.
He is my father. I have to stay.
The ship took off, with Flash staring down at their new friend, sorrowfully waving goodbye. He promised to return and get Broly out of that life one day. Broly childishly wiped his eyes as he began to be overwhelmed at seeing the only friends he had ever had fly away. The legendary warrior collected himself and began his return to a life of slavery. It had been almost 6 weeks since Kyle had last seen Earth, and while at first the thrill of these new worlds had enraptured his imagination, given the growing tensions on the ship, things weren't so exciting anymore.
I can't believe we all fell for this. Luthor got to send us all into space, and now he's most likely conquered the planet. We practically gift-wrapped the Earth for him.
Hey, hold on! I know it's been kinda dull up here, but the others have already gotten 2 of the entities. And with the orange guy, that makes 3. So we're... half? No. Yeah, almost halfway there!
I mean, you're not wrong. And besides, being able to train with you two here has really helped me get the hang of this ring.
Batman ignored the pair, his mind focused on every possibility. And in this scenario, the bad ones far outnumbered the good. He was on a mission out in space, surrounded by fighters with the power to break stars, while searching for beings of godlike might. Stepping this far out of his element was shaking him, but more than that, his mind was still on Nightwing, Dick Grayson, his boy, taken from him by the Saiyan invasion, and the family he had left behind, defenseless. Kyle returned to his living quarters, beginning to sketch an exaggerated image of Batman and Kakarot in a comedy duo fashion.
Help us. Help free the entity.
Kyle shot up from his seat, his ring glowing a strange hue of green. When nothing happened next, he assumed it must have been something in his imagination, until the ring spoke once more.
You're searching for it. Help these coordinates. Land here and you will possess the entity.
Kyle ran to the main quarters, seeing Kakarot doing some meditation while Batman continued to pilot the ship.
Sorry, but I think my ring is telling me where the entity is. That planet on the screen, there.
While skeptical, Batman decided to give it a shot. He was done wasting time, and if this didn't lead to something, he was ending this farce. The trio arrived, but the energy detector wasn't picking up anything from the emotional spectrum.
Nothing. Again, nothing. How arrogant were we to think we could search an entire universe?
Hey, it was worth a shot. Maybe we should go down and have a look anyway. Could be fun.
Batman got up from his seat, walking directly towards Kakarot and staring daggers at him.
It's always a damn game to you. Our loved ones could be butchered by psychopaths at home and you wouldn't even care.
Hey, that's not true. What's gotten into you, buddy?
Don't you dare act like my friend. This entire situation is because of you. Luthor has a hold on the League because of you. My son is dead because of you.
Kakarot was taken aback, while Kyle frantically looked at the pair, the light emanating from his ring beginning to change to a yellow hue.
You could have led us. You were the first of us to really appear to the public. The people were looking for an ideal of hope, someone that could help change the world. But you, all you wanted was a good fight. You became a novelty, Clark. Luthor was never challenged by you and could grow under your nose. Diana had to pick up the slack, but she's fighting a political battleground. All these years you've done good, but it's never been for the good. Not really. The moment the Saiyans showed up, you let them kill a city. You let them kill the best Green Lantern in history. And now, when we would have needed him most, we're stuck with the rookie.
That's not... No! I never meant to! I do want to help people.
Kyle's ring was lighting the entire room in a yellow glow. Terrified as the voice emanating from the ring could no longer be understood. It was ancient, powerful, and echoing Batman's words.
Guys, I think something's wrong here. I can't control the ring.
Why, of course you can't. You're no Hal Jordan.
Suddenly, Sinestro emerged from a portal generated by the ring, wresting it from the control of the terrified Kyle Rayner, who was no longer able to assert his will to use its power. And with the ring in his hand, Sinestro used it to expand the portal, unleashing a gigantic yellow creature that dove towards the Caped Crusader, instantly possessing Batman's body and transforming him in the image of Parallax.
Now, die screaming.
Parallax fired its energy in all directions, destroying most of the ship and sending it crashing onto the planet below. Kakarot emerged from the wreckage, having shielded the ringless Kyle from any damage by forming his ki into a makeshift barrier. He had been caught off guard once before. He wouldn't let another Green Lantern die because of that again. The possessed Batman and Sinestro stared down at the pair, impressed that they survived.
Is anyone going to explain to me what the hell just happened?
Sinestro rolled his eyes before deciding to inform the Lantern how this was entirely his fault. The pair had been sealed inside the green power battery on Oa, but were planning to use Hal Jordan to escape. But with him dead, their plan was ruined. Until the rookie wielding his ring seemed unusually compatible with the power of fear. They had been slowly using Kyle to restore some of their power, and with the final push from the Freeze argument, specifically Batman being influenced by their whispers, allowed Sinestro and Parallax the power to finally escape through the ring's connection to the central power battery. Kyle hung his head in shame. He'd been completely used, and now, for all his dreams of helping, he had just made things worse.
Well, if you're here now, looks like we don't have to keep searching for you.
Kyle looked up, amazed that Kakarot was still finding a positive in this hopeless situation. Sinestro scoffed at the notion before deciding to take his leave, mentioning that he had to inform their other ally of their success, flying off with Hal's ring into the atmosphere. Batman, however, got into a martial arts stance, his cape flowing wildly into horrifying, unnatural shapes. Kakarot told Kyle to hide in the forest, while he would try to bring Bruce back to his senses, knowing that the only way to get a chance to get through to him was to take this Parallax down.
Even now, all you want to do is fight. You are no hero.
I've never cared what people call me. That kind of stuff always seemed unimportant, but it led to this. That's on me. I just have to do the one thing I know I'm good at, and fight to get my friend back.
They face each other, cautious, determined, experienced. Their eyes lock. They each draw a breath. Their blows land with almost no force at first. A tap, a brush. They test, assess. A feint, a counter, a shift. Two martial arts masters, perhaps the best the universe has ever seen, maneuvering from chaos to logic in a current of fists. Their battle was one of mathematics versus thoughtlessness. Batman fought with the precision of a surgeon, his moves calculated for maximum efficiency, an economy of motion that made every single movement count. Kakarot, however, moved like water. He was formless, shapeless. He did not become tense, but ready, not thinking, yet not dreaming, ready for whatever may come. They fought for hours, with Kyle mesmerized at what he was witnessing, but eventually, the equilibrium began to break. Kakarot had started to land more and more, and slowly but surely, Batman was being pushed back.
I can't let you win. Not you. You're holding us all back. You were never like us. You'll never be one of us. You killed my son!
Parallax was panicking inside Batman's mind and began to draw upon all of Bruce's deepest fears and insecurities, harnessing all of it to form one last-ditch effort in the form of a gigantic construct. Prior to this, Parallax hadn't been using energy blasts. It had simply been enhancing Batman's physical power to be on par with Kakarot, while leaving his skill set intact. It was like taking the best driver in the world and putting him behind the wheel of a better car. But now that it was pushed against the wall, it resorted to what it knew best. Parallax formed a bat, its size so large it dwarfed the planet's moon, charging towards the Saiyan. But Kakarot responded in turn, harnessing all of his ki into his fist.
I guess now's the best time to give this a shot. You're not the only one who can make constructs.
The Saiyan shot towards the yellow creature, raising his fist as his power reached its apex.
Dragon Fist!
The image of a golden dragon emerged from his fist, shattering the bat and engulfing Batman in a giant concentration of energy. The explosion lit up the night sky before an exhausted Kakarot flew to the ground, holding an unconscious Batman.
I'm sorry I've been letting you down, buddy. I've got a new goal to strive towards. I'll make this right, so just hold on.
Kakarot laid him down as Kyle approached, thrilled that they had managed to save their friend for the moment, and curious as to why a dragon of all things was Kakarot's idea of a construct.
I don't know. It just felt right, you know?
Maybe you should try being an artist too. That thing looked awesome. I just hope we can both figure out a way to get off this planet. Without my ring, I'm useless to you.
Kakarot put his hand on Kyle's shoulder, smiling with a huge grin.
We've got all we need right here, so don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Come on, let's find some food. I'm starving!
As Kyle felt a bit more at ease thanks to Kakarot's goofy demeanor, the pair were completely oblivious to the gigantic warrior who was watching them from the shadows. Thanks to the information from his ally Sinestro, the plan was happening just as he predicted. Rogol Zar now had the Saiyan exactly where he wanted him after all these years. It had only been a few days after the defeat of the Saiyans at the hands of the Justice League, and Prince Vegeta finally awoke. Now, placed in a restraining armor, his mind still dazed from whatever had been keeping him sedated for so long. Seeing that he appeared to be in a mere stone cell, Vegeta smirked before raising his hand to blast his way out. As he attempted to, however, his arm fell to the ground instantly, smashing against the floor. But as he strained, Vegeta noticed strange symbols adorning the metal gauntlets on his hands. Wonder Woman decided to make her presence known. She had decided to take the task of monitoring Vegeta personally, knowing she was one of the only beings on Earth who would have a chance against him should the bindings fail.
An entire 12 seconds before you try to escape. Those bands on your arms, legs, and around your neck are magic, similar to the ones that I wear that deflected your blasts when we fought. Yours, however, will sense your intent, and they will adjust to nullify ill will.
Resourceful. It doesn't matter. I'll find a way to break them, and then I'll break Kakarot!
Wonder Woman shook her head in disgust at the prince's declaration. No hint of regret or remorse, just a desire to not only kill, but to wipe out the last member of his own species too. She explained that she would be visiting him regularly to gain information about his mission and the being that sent him here, and perhaps find a way to help him deal with his pain. The prince spat on the floor in response to her explanation, causing Diana to turn, leaving Vegeta to his dwellings. In the days since the Justice League began their search for the entities, Wonder Woman had been instrumental to the Earth's peace. She had assisted in assuring the proper resources be given in the rebuilding of the destroyed cities, while also continuing her prior humanitarian pursuits. Diana still found the time to inspect her new guest, bringing him his meals in small portions. She wouldn't resort to torture, but she still knew that Saiyans were even more dangerous on full stomachs, from her experiences with Kakarot.
If you think giving me feasts will get me to turn traitor, you're even more delusional than I thought.
Diana was taken aback by the remark, as Vegeta spoke without a hint of sarcasm. This gave the Amazonian more of an insight into the conditions the Saiyan must have been raised in, if these small meals were a feast in his eyes. In the following visits, she would gain more and more insight, Vegeta being quite talkative, albeit mostly to boast about himself, which Diana took some guilty pleasure in responding by taking him down a peg. But now and again, as the weeks passed, a picture began to form.
You serve this dark side, yet you are a prince of the Saiyan race. What I'm trying to understand is the correlation here. Surely you fight for your own goals while admitting being a servant for him. From what you've told me, that would mean the sacrifice of your sense of self.
Recent events have led me to consider other options. Regardless, once Darkseid comes to seek vengeance for what you've done, I'll be laughing over your burning planet.
Vegeta remained coy the entire time about the real reason he decided to stay on the planet. Wonder Woman had no idea that he was here out of fear for Darkseid's repercussions, and he wanted to keep it that way. He just needed to bide his time, allow his wounds to heal despite the restraining armor slowing his recovery rates to a crawl, and then escape. Some of the visits were bad, some were productive. Despite his constant threats, Diana was never intimidated by the Saiyan, and Vegeta surprisingly seemed more eager to respond when she called him out, some part of him enjoying the challenge she represented.
Do your tails grow back?
No, only when we are children. It's a paltry concern. My powers will continue to rise without it. There are still untapped avenues of Saiyan potential for me to reach.
Very well, though I shall still apologize. I do not regret my own actions, but the consequence of losing a part of your cultural identity is an unfortunate one.
In the 2 months since the League's departure, the world had seen Lex Luthor's expansion into the realm of politics more directly, no doubt attempting to plant the seeds for an eventual presidential campaign that gave Wonder Woman pause. She had allowed him into the Justice League, and she believed that he could be a great force for good if allowed the proper environment. And while this had helped save the Earth, she was not blind to what Luthor had begun. With the rest of the League gone, she decided to confront him directly about her concerns. They sat in Luthor's office for a little under an hour, debating the ethics of various ideas for the future of humanity, before Luthor finally decided that the Justice League would not be in line with his future goals, quitting the team on his own accord. Wonder Woman left Metropolis that day deeply concerned, as while Luthor was not an evil man, he was most assuredly a dangerous one.
Finally back? So, when are we going to start more of your kind little routine? If you're so busy, I can end those problems for you in a single blast. Take these bonds off and I'll make it quick.
Has there not been enough death because of you? My lover is dead at your hand. You've taken so much from us already. Need you take more?
Lover? Who? The lantern?
The soldier. You crushed him under your boot.
Someone like you, mated with a pathetic worm like that. Oh my, this planet is even more disappointing than I'd expected.
Diana remained unfazed by his remarks, instead just feeling a deep sense of loneliness without Steve, without her comrades. Wonder Woman had been burning the candle at both ends. With the amount of cities she had to protect while the other Leaguers were away, she had only been fighting and watching Vegeta. She'd even been forced to place Hippolyta's magic mirror into Vegeta's cell, just so she could have the time to monitor her friend's progress while keeping guard of the Saiyan Prince. Still, she could not falter. She owed to them all to manage things here while they were gone. An Amazonian soldier entered the room, informing the princess that Gorilla Grodd was attempting to invade Keystone City. Diana thanked her and made her way to stop the threat, while Vegeta, having noticed that Wonder Woman was referred to as royalty, decided to reassess some of his preconceived notions of the Amazonian. As time passed, Vegeta decided to speak up during the following visit.
I need to say something.
What for?
Though we are enemies, had I known you were of royal blood too, I would have chosen different words in our previous conversations.
Why should that matter?
Being royal makes us better than those who serve us. Our nobility stands above all, as the strong rule over the weak. It is the way of things.
Uncanny. Despite the impossible distance between your cultures, you remind me of a people originating on this world, the Spartans. Cruel conquerors, sons of war, obsessed with battle. Their fate was the same as all who devote themselves to death and war. Death and war. It would seem the flaws of man's world extend out into the reaches of the stars themselves. How disappointing.
As Vegeta was slightly intrigued by the idea of another Saiyan-like culture, their own conversation was interrupted by an Amazonian warrior frantically entering the room. She reported to Diana that they had been detecting strange energy signatures all across the beaches, one similar to those used by the Saiyans' technology. Believing this could be Darkseid, Diana readied herself for battle, leaving Vegeta as she went to inspect for herself. Vegeta, however, knew this wasn't Darkseid. He simply smiled, and then, once he was alone in his cell, decided to address the man who was now emerging in front of the bars from a boom tube.
Well, 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 if it isn't the bastard! I was wondering when you'd find me, Orion.
Darkseid's pet monkey, still as arrogant as ever. I want you on your feet when I kill you, in the name of the High Father. Stand.
Vegeta remained seated.
Stand.
Vegeta smirked, staring directly at Orion.
You're pathetic. Despite everything you say, it breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Stand!
That Darkseid sees me as his real son.
Orion roared in anger at the remark, firing a blast from his Astro harness into Vegeta's cell. The Prince of Saiyans was ready, having deliberately provoked the new god into making a mistake, and so he lifted his arms in the same manner as he'd seen Wonder Woman do, using his new gauntlets to deflect the blast away from him and into the door of his cell. He was free, and quickly dashed towards the exit, Orion giving chase, only for Vegeta to dash it aside, crossing the path of Wonder Woman, who had just returned.
By Hera, how did he escape?
The son of Darkseid himself freed me right under your nose. Now together we'll kill you all!
Vegeta inwardly laughed at how easy Orion was to set up, directing any opposition from his escape towards the warrior from New Genesis, leading Orion to fight back in anger and making himself fit perfectly as a distraction Vegeta needed.
Move it!
Orion, in his confusion and needing something to blame for his own blunder, struck Wonder Woman before she had a chance to go after Vegeta, pushing aside the other Amazonians beside her. Diana defended her sisters, kicking Orion across the back of the head, the two beginning to battle throughout the island, each viewing the other as Vegeta's ally. The chaos of the situation causing Orion to be seen as the priority target, while Vegeta blasted off the island, still able to fly, given his only intention was self-preservation. Thanks to his speed, Vegeta was able to go far beyond the reach of any sensors in less than a second. But despite his escape being successful, he was now faced with a new issue. He was vaguely familiar with Earth, given his intel before the invasion, but without being able to survive in space, and this armor preventing him from pulling on his deeper reserves, the prince had no idea where to go and plan his next move. The one thing that came to mind was these Spartans. If they were truly as Wonder Woman described, then perhaps they would have stolen space travel from the weaker natives of the world, as his own race did with the Tuffles. Vegeta was able to access the internet after landing in Italy, demanding the phone of the first person he met.
Device, I demand you to tell me the location of this Sparta.
And then, when he couldn't unlock the password, threw it to the ground and found someone else. All the while, his restraints were preventing him from killing the people he was stealing from, despite how much they were frustrating him. Eventually, he was able to have a terrified citizen show him the location of the Spartans, and to Vegeta's shock, explain what had happened to them. Vegeta walked through the ruins of the Acropolis. He felt like he was in some dreamlike state. Despite being long dead, these ruins still stood as a testament to a people's warrior pride. A small reminder, but one the Saiyan race would never have. He was an inconceivable distance from where planet Vegeta once stood in the galaxy, yet still, he was overwhelmed with a strange sense of nostalgia. It was the first time he felt at home since he had run away with Nappa and Raditz a lifetime ago.
Well, thank you for being kind enough to at least pick a decent burial site.
Vegeta's thoughts were brought back to the present, as a beaten Orion stood before him. Wonder Woman had obviously done some damage, but he had managed to withdraw from the island, lock onto Vegeta's genetic code through his mother box, and track him to his current location.
Too bad there won't be anything left of you to bury.
Vegeta's boasts were hollow. He knew Orion was still a threat in his current state. He had to play this smart, or he'd be finished. The two charged at each other, with Vegeta raising his fist in a bluff, before flying over Orion's head and attempting to escape. But Orion would not fall for the same trick twice, and quickly overtook Vegeta, hitting him with a kick that sent him crashing to the ground. The adopted son of Highfather continued his rage-fueled onslaught, slamming his fist into Vegeta's gut and making the prince cough up blood. Orion lifted Vegeta off the ground with one hand, preparing to gloat, before the Saiyan spat the blood filling his mouth onto Orion's helmet, blinding the new god, causing him to swing wildly, which Vegeta took advantage of, using a redirecting counter to send Orion's own fist into his face. Orion threw his helmet to the ground and leapt onto Vegeta, pelting the Saiyan with an onslaught of vicious blows. The prince's face was battered and bleeding, but he continued to smile, whispering to Orion every unspeakable thing Darkseid had called his abandoned son.
Even without your helmet, you're still hiding your real face.
Orion was now beyond simple rage. His blow shook the ground beneath them with every hit, but Vegeta was now able to shift his head in time to dodge these uncontrolled swings and grabbed Orion's discarded helmet, slamming the sharp point of it directly into the new god's eye. Blood gushed from the warrior as he screamed in pain, buying Vegeta a chance to try and limp away, but he felt his legs buckle as he began to move. Orion was a fool, but he knew how to break someone. With blood from his damaged eye rushing down his face, Orion began to look more akin to his father. Vegeta, for a second, seeing the image of Darkseid in the new god's scowl. Orion shot towards the Saiyan, and while Vegeta would continue to try and escape the situation, Orion would not be held back for long. He assaulted the prince from every angle, smashing his face against the ruins, an endless barrage of knees, elbows, and punches raining on top of the beaten warrior. Orion raised his fist for the final blow, but suddenly, his arm was caught by Wonder Woman, and she proceeds to throw Orion off Vegeta like a ragdoll.
Enough! He is beaten!
Diana had a cut lip and some bruises, but it was clear from her appearance that she had been the victor of her earlier battle with Orion, only being able to find the two warriors due to the incantations on Vegeta's armor possessing the ability to follow his spirit wherever it went. She stared down Orion as he rose to his feet, prepared to battle the new god again, should it come to that.
He is a prisoner of the Amazons. If you wish his death, mine must come first.
Orion considered his options, and decided that with the damage he had already taken, fighting this woman again was not going to end well for him, and so decided to forget this day altogether, smashing the coordinates to escape into his mother box to return to New Genesis.
I was going to make it quick, you damn ape. You deserve what Darkseid is going to do. The hell I care. You take your comfort with legs here while you can. You bugs deserve each other.
Orion vanished through the boom tube, while Vegeta rose to his feet and stood beside Wonder Woman, laughing as best he could, despite his injuries.
Running with his tail between his legs. How pathetic. The mightiest of New Genesis, bested by an Earthling princess. At least it seems you're stronger than that, fool.
Wonder Woman turned to Vegeta in annoyance, his fixation on such a brutal idea of strength disappointing her at every turn.
You know nothing of strength.
I am an elite from the most powerful race the universe has ever known. I am strength personified.
Then why do you serve under a wicked master?
All I care about is battle. The only thing that matters to a warrior is strength. That's why I fight for Darkseid, and that's why we will win. No compromises, no morality. Only the purely evil can be truly strong.
Wonder Woman, having reached the limits of her patience, threw Vegeta to the ground. She wrapped the lasso of truth around his neck and kicked his face into the dirt, holding it there with her foot.
That is a lie. Abuse and cruelty is not strength, it is selfish cowardice. Strength comes from doing what is hard, from mercy and love. Here you are, bound by the golden perfect, the lasso of truth, under my boot. I could kill you right this second. Couldn't I?
The Saiyans struggled mightily against the lasso's power, the air around them crackling with small sparks as he tried to summon his might through his restraints, but it was to no avail.
Yes!
Diana wrapped the other end of the lasso around her own hand, compelling herself to speak the truth.
Killing you in this moment would be easy. Cruelty is easy. Your power comes from the same source of all cruelty, fear. So tell me, Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans, what are you afraid of?
The Saiyan screamed with all the might he could muster, managing to form an aura around himself, causing the ruins they were surrounded by to begin to crack. But there was no fighting this. He could wipe out civilizations, but he could not overpower the truth, no matter how much he didn't want to accept it.
No matter how strong I become, I'll never be stronger than him. For all my power, my pride, it is all insignificant compared to the rock of his unyielding will. Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans, nothing. Darkseid is.
The lasso reveals all lies, even those which we tell ourselves.
I was a boy and I saw my father, brother, my entire race wiped out. My birthright crushed and thrown into the wind. I faced the monster that did it. I was broken by him, and Darkseid was there to rebuild me in his image. You speak of strength through love, but after all the evil I've done for the Saiyans and in Darkseid's name, no one could ever have love for me. I must be evil.
Diana relaxed her hold, no longer restraining Vegeta, yet the prince still lay on the ground, the weight of his pride keeping him subdued. Wonder Woman looked the prince in the eyes with the same honesty she'd faced all beings with, allies and foes alike.
I love everyone, even you, and that is what makes me strong.
After long months of travel, the crew of Hawkgirl, Larfleeze, and Martian Manhunter had finally found another strong reading of emotional energy. This time, from the planet Zamaron. The trio had managed to form a strange kinship during their journey, as even Larfleeze's bizarre quirks began to be some needed form of levity in the cold darkness of space travel. The Martian and the Thanagarian had begun to feel a deeper connection, one that frightened them both, and after a foolish embrace of passion, following Ja'on's amazing feat in securing the compassion entity, Kendra found herself struggling to talk to her friend. She hoped that once this mission was over, she could leave the League, knowing full well the dangers of having such a close relationship in their line of work. It would be far easier than confronting what she was feeling. However, the Martian Manhunter did not need to read her mind to know what she was thinking.
Kendra, I feel it is unwise to proceed further without addressing what you're feeling. These are beings of emotion. If we aren't prepared...
Jean, let's not get into this right now, okay? I'm fine, I've got this.
As they entered the planet's atmosphere, their field of vision was engulfed in a sudden violet light that tore through their ship's shields like paper.
Get behind me!
The ship smashed into the surface of the alien world, erupting into a ball of flame. Approaching the wreckage was the champion of Zamaron, Carol Ferris, lover of the late Hal Jordan. She was Star Sapphire. Out from the flames flew Hawkgirl, carrying an injured John. He had shielded her from the blast by shaping his body around her, but the combination of such power, fire, and his own weakened state from suppressing an entity had left the powerful Leaguer helpless. Hawkgirl held her savior, keeping him close with one arm and readying her mace in her other. She had only heard of the Star Sapphire through reputation and Hal's own stories, but nothing suggested she would be hostile towards them. Upon closer inspection, Hawkgirl realized what had caused the attack. Star Sapphire was looking at her with hatred through her tears, a look of grief. She blamed the League for the death of Hal Jordan and refused to let them take anything else from her. Even the Zamarons themselves seemed to be fearful around their grief-stricken champion.
We're trying to save Hal, you psycho! Just stand down and listen to what we have to say.
Her pleas fell on deaf ears, as the corrupting power of the Star Sapphire had amplified Carol's unstable state beyond any hope of reasoning. Hawkgirl knew she didn't have a chance against such a powerful foe, but refused to let John die in her arms, preparing one last stand as Star Sapphire fired an energy blast towards them.
You broke my ship!
An army of orange warriors intercepted the blast, defended the two Leaguers, and then swarmed Star Sapphire, Larfleeze unleashing his full power in retaliation against the shot Carol Ferris.
You destroyed my stuff!
Larfleeze's minions smashed through Carol's defense and sent her hurtling through the atmosphere, the Saiyans among them staring up at the moon of Zamaron, becoming a legion of orange Uzarus. Star Sapphire began to draw upon more and more of the Sapphire's power in response, and managed to put up a decent challenge for a brief time, yet none in the universe could truly last long against the overwhelming might of Agent Orange.
You hurt my acquaintances!
Carol blasted through a mountaintop and directly into the sanctuary of the Zamorons. The beings turned in shock as a surge of violet light erupted into the sky. Carol, who had barely been able to contain it, now completely gave in to the predator entity itself and was overwhelmed with power. With a blast from her hand, she wiped out a squadron of Larfleeze's forces, leading the Orange Lantern to be pushed onto the back foot, using his own entity to fire back with as much force as he could muster. Hawkgirl was in awe as orange and violet light clashed in the sky, shaking the planet itself and threatening to tear it in two. She didn't know what to do. She didn't trust that she could even do anything. And without a ship to get home, what would be the point in even trying? Doubt filled her mind, but she caught it and crushed it beneath her mental heel. Hawkgirl would not let everything they had done till now go down in vain. She flew towards the beam struggle, her mace in hand, and with one last look towards John, dove into the clashing powers head first. Her nth metal wings began to glow, harnessing the power around her, diverting as much as it could. Her mace struck against the Star Sapphire's blast, carving her way into the beam. Her body was breaking apart, and the shocked Larfleeze only just noticed what was happening.
Fool! I don't need help! You'll die, and I'll lose a limited edition companion!
No! I can tip the balance to your favor. Just keep firing. Then when she's gone, take the entity yourself.
Larfleeze was taken aback at this selflessness, but decided that getting another entity would be desirable, so continued to fire, his beam managing to overtake the Star Sapphire with every swing Hawkgirl struck from within the struggle. Kendra felt herself beginning to fade, her wings slowly being crushed between the two powers, but maybe she'd done just enough to make things right.
Kendra! Kendra!
Jean?
The Manhunter summoned what little strength he had left to mentally connect with Hawkgirl.
You don't need to sacrifice yourself.
I have to. Of course I have to. This is a single action that can bring back everyone we lost. I've sacrificed many lives to causes less noble than this.
Then, I would like to show you something.
The mindscape was transformed as Kendra found herself in what looked like a vision of paradise. Pyramids, grand cities, places she remembered from all her lives.
This is a psychic world, a construct I built that will give you some peace. It's made out of your favorite places from all your lives. I've been building it for the last few weeks from pieces of your dreams. I'd wanted to take you here as a gift, but if you must do this, I can make sure your final moments aren't spent in pain.
Jean.
I'm sorry. Did I overstep somehow? I don't want to.
Hawkgirl pulled the Martian into a kiss, taking the moment as the two held each other in a timeless mindscape. In reality, this development had caused a chance, as the entity powering Star Sapphire abandoned its host, finding a pure, powerful source of love right in front of it, one that had not been soured in mourning. The being entered Hawkgirl's body, and she began to glow in a vibrant display of light, her wings glowing violet and ending the conflict in a deciding burst of energy. The empowered Hawkgirl caught the now unconscious Carol, bringing her to the Zamorons, who seemed to have finally found a true champion. Galaxies away, Kyle Rayner and Batman stood watch over an injured Kakarot. All of them were exhausted, but the Saiyan had been brought the lowest by the being that had been hunting them. A few days after saving Batman from Parallax, Kakarot was struck from the shadows by a gigantic figure, who then disappeared before a fight could even begin. These strikes consisted of midnight ambushes, ensuring no access to food and water, all designed to weaken and scare the heroes, or in this case, the prey of Rogol Zar.
Can you move?
Yeah, no problem.
Whoa, hold on. You can't be serious. He can barely stand. Let him rest. I'm gonna find us a way off this planet. We can do more than just survive.
If Kakarot says he can move.
Kakarot struggled to his feet. The injuries from the latest confrontation with their pursuer were only a few hours fresh, and they had got him harder than he realized. But with an effort that would have killed most warriors, the Saiyan got to his feet with a gentle smile.
Then we need to focus on keeping up.
Batman too was exhausted. While Kakarot had been defending on the physical front, Bruce was fighting a mental war against Parallax, forcing the entity down, trying not to be overwhelmed again. The trio traveled deeper into the undergrowth, Batman guiding them through the maze-like forest, keeping them safe from any spots he saw as potential pitfalls. Bruce had faced many opponents who tried to break him, to hunt him, but he had never seen an alien being with enough power to stand toe-to-toe with Kakarot utilize such in-depth strategy. And all they knew was his name, proudly declared during his first attack when he vowed that Kakarot would be the last of the Saiyan bloodline. Kakarot, in his wrath form, was more powerful than Zar. Even Vegeta back on Earth boasted more raw strength, but his level of combat skill and arsenal of tools seemingly designed to combat, counter, and kill Saiyans left Kakarot at his mercy. Batman was growing frustrated with himself. His own insecurities were what had let them get stuck in this situation, and he wasn't even good enough to think of a way out of it.
Hey, don't let it worry you, okay?
I still need to apologize for everything I said.
That wasn't you. We've been over this. And anyway, I think I needed to hear some of that.
You're even more positive than Dick was. Maybe that's why Joker hates you both.
We're gonna bring him back, Bruce. I promise. I'll beat this guy.
Batman finally shared a smile with his friend, helping the Saiyan walk arm in arm. Kyle turned at the two heroes, glad to see that even the stone wall of Batman did have a heart.
Look out!
Kyle tried to warn his friends in shock as Rogol Zar stood towering behind the seemingly unaware Leaguers. Batman and Kakarot were already well aware, the two martial arts masters turning in a split second. Batman to leap away, firing out what looked like corrosive acid pellets towards Zar's eyes, while Kakarot launched a spinning kick towards his face, which the hunter grabbed, swinging Kakarot in front of his face to block the acid. Batman, however, was not so simple, and the pellets began to shine with a small light, revealing themselves to be in fact remote controlled, zipping around Kakarot's body and into the scar tissue of Zar's face.
Ha! You shouldn't underestimate my friend's toys!
Kakarot powered up into his wrath state to break Rogol's hold and began to execute a combination attack against the warrior. Meanwhile, on Earth, the battle was being watched by the prisoner Vegeta and his watchful guard, Wonder Woman. She had grown worried given the long period of time the League had been out in space, and so was using the magic mirror to monitor the events for herself. The sight of her friends in such peril frustrated her, wishing she could be there to help, while Vegeta was filled with rage at the sight of Rogol Zar. The killer of his race was in front of his own eyes, and yet he could not face him.
Kakarot truly is an embarrassment. This time Zar won't let him run.
Let him? I seem to remember Kakarot's form besting you in combat.
You've never hunted for sport. Zar's been waiting till the chance of failure has been brought to zero. He can tell the clown's used up everything he had. He'll be going in for the kill soon. As for that wrathful state, it impressed me during our battle, but now its failings are all too clear. Kakarot should be realizing that himself right now.
Wonder Woman could tell Vegeta's words were not arrogant boasts. The Saiyan was speaking the truth.
Please, find a way to win.
Rogol Zar had the Saiyan under his boot heel, the short exchange ending like all the others before it. Kakarot was feeling it now, the mistake of this form, what Shiva had warned him about. It granted him incredible power, but the rage was too animalistic to ever properly merge with his fighting style. Every time he used it, Rogol Zar was able to find openings in his guard. Sloppy, wild punches missed their target, and he fell for traps and gadgets far more easily than he would have in his base form. Yet, without the Wrath's power, Kakarot was too weak to fight Rogol Zar at all. The being's strength required the Wrath form, yet his skills meant he could not be beaten by a mindless, wild fighter. Batman jumped onto Zar's back, planting mines designed to injure metahumans before leaping away and detonating them. Zar, however, was unfazed and prepared his spear to finish off Kakarot.
You have lasted longer than any Saiyan before you, and you have fought to protect. For this, I will spare your comrades. With this act, my people will finally be avenged.
Before he could end it, Zar felt the tiniest sensation of a fist against his chest. A small, insignificant human was trying to attack him. Kyle Rayner, refusing to give up when everyone else had. Zar pushed him aside, but once again, the human got up and charged him, unable to do anything to the being, but giving everything he had. He tried to grab Zar's spear, his hands bleeding, attempting to snap the raw edge. Zar smacked him aside once again, breaking the young man's arm this time. But again, Kyle stood up. Batman and Kakarot told Kyle to run, to get away while he could, but Kyle stood firm over Kakarot, staring directly at the hunter.
Why do you defend a being whose people have brought nothing but death?
Because it's my job. I'm a Green Lantern, so if you're going to get to him, you're going to have to go through me.
Acceptable.
The spear shot towards Kyle. Kakarot screamed, trying to get out of Zar's hold in time. Batman ran to try and save them both, while Kyle closed his eyes, remembering the words Gantfit had told him to never forget.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
If he was going to die, he would die fighting, no matter the odds. He threw a punch, and it connected. But this time, Rogol Zar was sent flying as Kyle hit the center of his chest, the punch echoing throughout the forest. Kyle opened his eyes, glowing with the power of Ion.
How? I don't understand.
Batman approached the confused Lantern, explaining that the entity had entered his body as he threw the punch. The presence of Parallax and Kyle's own strong will must have attracted the entity to the planet while they were being hunted.
You just made a miracle happen, Kyle.
That was incredible! You got the first solid hit on him I've seen! Way to go!
Kakarot excitedly smacked the nervous Kyle on the back, his own injuries being ignored, as with the help of Kyle, they could tip the balance against Zar. Then, to add to the growing confusion, a trio appeared in a flash of violet light. Larfleeze, Martian Manhunter, and Hawkgirl had used the power of the love entity to teleport to the other group. Hawkgirl collapsing to her knees, from using all of her power to do so. Kakarot and Kyle turned in shock, having been reunited with their friends rather suddenly.
Huh? Oh, hey guys! How did you do that?
The power of the love entity lets you teleport to a person you love.
But then who?
My Saiyan! You're damaged! Who did this to you? Are you okay? Do you need something to eat?
Larfleeze ran and picked up Kakarot, coddling him like an injured puppy, finally reunited with his precious Saiyan.
Yee! I'm really conflicted on how to feel right now.
I've scanned your memories to be informed of the situation. This foe is like nothing I've seen before.
We should have the advantage now, but I doubt he's going to go easy. The priority is protecting Kendra. She's our only way off this planet without either of our ships.
Rogolzar shook the damage from the surprise attack off, pressing a device on his wrist that began to shift the landscape around the heroes. What were once mountains in the distance began to melt and be reformed into hundreds of silver spears sent hurtling towards them. These were no real threat, so long as they could keep on guard, but Rogolzar used it as a distraction to dash in between them all, knocking them away with a single swing of his spear. Everyone but Kyle was exhausted from their prior experiences, so the lantern took charge, trying to match Rogolzar head on. However, a blast of yellow struck him from behind, separating Kyle from the rest of the group.
I didn't expect things to get this interesting. Shall we divide and conquer, old friend?
Rogolzar nodded. Given the greater numbers, he would have to forego his code of honor should the Saiyans' allies continue to interfere. To Rogolzar, nothing else mattered anymore. He was so close. He had to fulfill it, fulfill the purpose he was created for, and achieve revenge.
Batman! Kyle's gonna need you!
Batman was taken aback by Kakarot taking charge, but immediately understood what the Saiyan meant, leaving the group battling Rogolzar to go follow where Kyle was now dueling Sinestro. With the cosmic force of Ion, Kyle was now far superior to Sinestro in raw power, yet the bout was still fairly even, as Sinestro's greater experience using a power ring allowed him to run circles around Kyle's attempts, the young lantern having the added handicap of Ion's power feeling overwhelming to control and aim effectively.
Look at you. Failing all over again, are we? Jordan would have never struggled to wield Ion's power. Even now, defeating you will be too easy, alley rat. To make things more interesting, I won't even move from this spot.
Shut up!
The lantern was faltering, with Sinestro's mind games throwing him off more and more, until he began to overtake Kyle.
Kyle, stop trying to rationalize it.
What?
You're thinking about defeat, about failing, about losing control. Stop. Take a breath. Empty your mind and just create.
Sinestro blasted Batman away, the Caped Crusader jumping just in time to avoid taking lethal damage. Kyle, however, had been given just the time he needed. With one hand emerged a giant green bat, and the other a green dragon of pure power. He wasn't thinking of creating anything specifically. He just let his imagination guide him, fueled by Ion's cosmic might.
Now, make him afraid.
The constructs tripled in size as Kyle smiled. Their charging jaws engulfed Sinestro's attempts to fight back, hitting the fallen lantern as he was overwhelmed and blasted away from the planet.
This boy, he's not just using will.
Sinestro was beaten, his ring being the only thing that allowed him to flee safely. Kyle's power faded, having exhausted himself to control the power of Ion. He looked up into the sky as a small green object dropped from where Sinestro had been hit. Hal's ring was now back in Kyle's hands. On the other battlefield, Rogolzar was making short work of the League. They were simply too exhausted to put up a real fight. with even Larfleeze being systematically taken down by a ferocious assault from the Hunter. Martian Manhunter tried to attack his mind, but Rogolzar invited him in, letting the psychic fall into a trap specifically made within his mind from specialized training. John was now stuck inside a box within a box within a box, infinitely, all on fire, until Zar smashed his face into the floor in reality. Hawkgirl smacked her mace against the monster's jaw, dealing some damage, but before she could follow up, Rogolzar launched a specialized magnetic light device from his belt that caused her wings to be smashed into each other, followed by devastating electric shocks. The Hunter turned to Kakarot, his only real priority in this battle, but the Saiyan disappeared in a red and gold streak, leading Zar to be confused as a trident struck him in his missing eye.
Fall, monster!
After their adventure with Broly, Mera and Flash had used their ship to follow the last known location of Batman's crew, arriving just in the nick of time, with the Butcher inside Mera being drawn to the planet now that nearly all of the entities were assembled in one place.
You don't look so good, buddy. We'll take it from here, okay?
No! Don't underestimate him!
Before Kakarot could finish, Flash was already beginning to attack Rogolzar alongside Mera, her powerful blows and hydrokinesis doing the majority of the damage, while Flash upset his footing and pestered him with rapid assaults.
To think a Saiyan could attract so many pests. Protocol. Speedsters.
On cue, the floor beneath Flash opened up, revealing it to be the same silver liquid metal as the mountains from before. The falling Flash caught in the tendrils and unable to move.
Flash.
The distracted Mera was quickly struck with a small device placed onto her face that began to prevent her brain from sending signals to the rest of her body. Rogolzar struck her in the back of the head and left her helpless on the ground, taking a moment to activate another protocol on his wrist that sent a legion of spikes beneath the ground that skewered Mera's ship. Now, there was no way for anyone to escape.
Come on! I've got to try something!
Kakarot had no key left, but tried to form a chaos cannon, placing his hands in front of him. His friends were dying to protect him, but they had all brought an entity with them. They had done the impossible. Each and every one of them. He knew they could do it, and he knew they could win this. Rogolzar began to walk towards the Saiyan, knowing that he was no threat now. But to his surprise, a small blue light began to flicker in Kakarot's hands. It slowly grew in size, growing larger and more intense. The Saiyan was amazed, as this power didn't seem to be his own. It continued to grow, the weight of the power being too much to hold in front of him. So he raised it up above his head, his arms stretching to the sky as the ball of light expanded exponentially. From within the orb, a bird-like silhouette could be seen as the power began to flow into Kakarot himself, his tattered orange costume turning into a glowing blue.
I am the hope of the universe. All will be well.
The Hope entity, Adara, had responded to the gathering of its own kind and lent its power to Kakarot, who proceeded to fire the orb of spiritual energy directly at Rogolzar, exploding like a bomb onto the confused Hunter.
Come on, come on!
The Flash had managed to phase through his bindings and went as fast as he could to get every single member of the League away from the blast zone. A crater that seemed to go into the center of the planet was all that was left. The beaten League assembled together at last, finally possessing all of the entities.
We actually did it. It seems all our sacrifices have not been in vain, my friend.
So, now what? Is something supposed to happen?
No. He's still alive!
Everyone turned to Kakarot, the exhausted Saiyan barely standing, after being overwhelmed by Adara's might. Yet, he still had enough strength to sense Rogol slowly climbing out of the crater, bit by bit. They didn't have much time until he made it to them again, and now they knew there'd be no more miracles. Everyone had spent what they had. There was nothing left to give.
Kendra, do you think you could teleport us to Earth?
I don't know. Not by myself, anyway. We need a source of love to make it work.
That part's easy. Linda's always been my lightning rod. Kendra, your wings can harness energy, right? I can give them a Speed Force charge lickety-split. What about you, Longface?
Fine, but only to ensure easy delivery of my new stuff.
They all harnessed their power around Kendra, Joanne holding her hand tight, giving her the confidence to take a risk this big. The Predator roared, and just like that, a portal to Earth opened up in front of the group.
The portal is going to stay open without your control, correct?
For a couple minutes, yeah, but... Oh, God.
He will follow us to Earth.
Rogol was getting closer to escaping his crater. The impacts of his hands smashing into rock were now sounding like localized earthquakes.
Don't worry. I just need to stay and hold him off until it closes.
Everyone turned in shock to Kakarot, the suggestion turning what was to be their moment of triumph into the worst thing they could imagine.
Don't be stupid. We can just fight and beat him on Earth.
The kid's right. Kakarot, your home is with us. We won't leave you.
Kakarot smiled at the group, glad that he got to meet friends like this.
This all started because the Saiyans followed me to Earth. I ain't gonna risk anyone else dying because of a threat that only wants me.
But, Kakarot...
He said what needs to happen. We've done the impossible. We do this and we can bring back millions. There isn't an argument here.
Batman's words struck the group hard, but they knew he was right. Each of them said their goodbyes to Kakarot. Any doubt of him being a hero was completely wiped from their minds as they each stepped into the portal, leaving a friend behind.
If you get out of this, Warworld isn't that far from here, okay? There's a friend waiting there, if you need one.
With Flash entering the portal, now only Batman, Kyle, and Kakarot remained. The young Lantern refusing to leave the person who had let him grow so much behind.
This isn't right. I have all this power now. I refuse to let you do this on your own. You can't die. There's still so much I need to learn.
Kakarot put his hand on Kyle's shoulder, a blue light passing from inside him into the lantern. Kyle now was controlling both the will and hope entity.
What just...
Thought so. You're one of a kind, Kyle. For some reason, you can harness the emotions better than anyone else. Take that home, and let everyone know I'm sorry. I have nothing left to teach you.
It's time to go, Kyle.
This is what you wanted all along, right? Now you won't have to worry about him messing up anymore, even after everything he's done to help. You're right, okay? I'm just a dumb rookie.
Batman took a moment before removing his cowl. Bruce Wayne stared at Kyle Rayner with the most vulnerable look the young Lantern had ever seen.
I've made a lot of mistakes, more than I care to list. I've gotten the people closest to me hurt and killed, so I know just how important it is to never settle for anything but your best. With what we do, if you're not prepared, you can lose everything. I've held Kakarot to that standard, and I'm holding you to it, because I know you can surpass it. You're no Hal Jordan. Stop trying to be. Be better. Be the best Green Lantern I've ever met. Be Kyle Rayner.
With a sudden movement, Batman slammed his palm into Kyle's chest, pushing the lantern into the portal and passing on Parallax.
And don't forget who taught you how to use fear.
Batman looked solemnly as Kyle vanished, saying a final goodbye to the family he was leaving behind on Earth, before putting his cowl back on.
You staying to fight with me, huh?
Someone's got to make sure you don't mess up.
The two martial artists smiled at each other, both glad that if this was their final stand, it would be alongside a brother. Rogol Zar emerged from the pit, eyes narrowed on Kakarot, and relieved he decided to fight. In a gesture of honor, he threw away his devices, carrying only his trusted spear.
No more tricks.
Bruce took off his cape, shirt, and his empty utility belt, throwing them into the portal.
No more tricks.
Heh! Now this is a real fight!
Kakarot and Rogol Zar charged towards each other, entering an exchange of blows. Kakarot was no longer using his Wrath form, deciding that his best chance was to rely on his original training. The two continued to battle, with Rogol Zar still having more reserves, despite the damage he'd taken. He'd managed to subvert Kakarot's desperate blows, grabbing the Saiyan in a headlock poised to snap his neck. Batman was ready and seized his moment, using his gauntlet to surprise Zar with a potent strain of fear gas, supercharged to take out Metas.
Do you have no honor?
I cheat.
Kakarot broke free from the hold and began to attack the stunned Zar. But a hunter was no stranger to chemical warfare and stabbed his own hand with his weapon to snap himself back to reality. This act took Kakarot by surprise, and Rogol Zar struck, ready to end this battle with one final spear thrust. The weapon did draw blood, and Kakarot looked up in horror as Batman had taken the hit for him, impaling the Dark Knight in the heart. Bruce took one last look to the stunned Kakarot, as if this had been his real plan all along, before the life faded from the world's greatest detective. Rogol Zar spat to the side, ashamed that his noble weapon had been used on such an honorless earthling, allowing the body of Batman to fall to the ground. The image of Batman falling hurt Diana no less, even though it was through a magic mirror. She had held off meeting the other Justice Leaguers till the end of this battle, but now she couldn't bear to watch as one of her closest friends had just died, and the other was surely soon to follow. Refusing to witness another execution, she left to meet her friends that still remained. Vegeta, however, stared intently. Watching Zar toy with Kakarot and Batman was giving him flashbacks to Tarbell, and despite their rivalry, Vegeta was sickened at the thought of Zar taking another Saiyan life. He looked on in silence as the killer of the Saiyan race stepped forward. Kakarot was trembling uncontrollably, completely and utterly stunned. He couldn't feel anything throughout his whole body, either pain or numbness. The world shattered before his eyes as the lifeless body of something precious was thrown to the ground like trash. He was alone. Then there was a spark, a twitch, a small kindle of rage in the darkest, loneliest corner of himself. Kakarot's eyes became glossy. His head snapped back and then down again, as if he was fighting to hold something back.
You ruthless, heartless bastard!
The aura around him was thick and destructive, his mind still swirling in the rage of an uncontrolled storm. He had been holding on to an idea of mercy his entire life. So, he let go.
What?
He appeared directly next to Rogolzar's face.
You killed a good man because you wanted to get to me. How many more would you kill? How many of my friends would die until you stopped?
Rogolzar was panicking. The idea in his head of what was happening was too frightening to be believed. But one thing grounded him. One thing kept him focused. His mission was absolute.
As many as it would take to see you Saiyans dead.
Kakarot's muscles swelled, his power responding to Zar's remark.
Then no more. Let's end this. Right here. Right now!
That exchange would be the last of the battle to be viewed by another, as Vegeta, furious at what he had just witnessed, destroyed the mirror.
It is real. He's done it! After all these years, the legendary Super Saiyan has come, and it's not me!
Now truly alone, the Golden Warrior cracked his fist against the side of Rogolzar's face, launching the behemoth like a ragdoll, before appearing in front of the flying titan in an instant, kicking him directly into the sky, then slamming him back down with methodical ferocity. Zar emerged, new scars now added to his weathered body. There was no doubt about it. This was the legend come true.
The Super Saiyan finally stands before me. My entire life has led to this.
Rogolzar ripped off his shirt, revealing markings from a race of people thought long dead.
On the blood of the Tuffles and the Daxamites, I swear I will kill you, Saiyan!
A primal part of himself told Kakarot that Rogolzar's words were true, that he was now a Super Saiyan. What that meant didn't matter. All he wanted was for this enemy to suffer. Charging instantly, faster than Rogol could react to, Kakarot reached his opponent with a right punch, but it was a fake. As Rogol tried to block, Kakarot flipped to one side with terrific speed. The hunter's swings passed through empty air. Kakarot's comparably smaller size made him an impossible target now that he was so fast. Dodging these punches was child's play. They continued to battle for what seemed like forever to Rogolzar, the damage piling up as it became increasingly clear how outmatched he was. He was desperate to try anything. Noticing how his opponent was hovering a few inches off the ground, Rogol suddenly adapted his form, using his long arms to build up momentum as he spun in for a series of attacks which was surprisingly well executed for his bulk. The second came in, a devastating uppercut, yet still, Kakarot stood. Then, with the third strike from Zar's massive arm heading straight for him, Kakarot let it smack him across the face.
Heh, sorry. Even I'm surprised at how strong I am now. You said you were going to kill me?
You dare mock me! After everything your people did, I was created to avenge the Tuffles. Yet you act innocent of your people's crimes.
That's why they were destroyed. All things need balance. My masters taught me that. It's why I'm here now, to destroy you!
Kakarot cupped his hands together, preparing to charge a Chaos Cannon. Rogolzar was no fool. He knew that this was the end.
If it is to come down to being killed by you, I would rather choose death by my own hand.
Whichever you like.
Rogolzar took his spear, and with a secret, final, solemn vow, impaled his own heart. The slayer of the Saiyan race was no more. Kakarot was surprised to see him go through with the act, looking at the fallen hunter with a hint of regret. With the target of his rage no more, his senses returned to him, and he felt it was a shame to see someone so powerful, so strategically wise, so skilled, die in such a senseless way. One thing took his notice as Rogolzar's discarded wrist device began to glow wildly, the screen flashing a failsafe warning. Unsure what this could mean, Kakarot was completely shocked when the planet itself started to break apart, giant pillars of flame emerging from below. Zar had made this a no-win scenario. The moment his heart stopped beating, he had made it so the planet itself was rigged to explode. The trap truly was perfect. Kakarot screamed in frustration, as despite achieving the power of legend, he was still trapped on this doomed planet.
I have to try it, but I don't even know if I could. Damn it, there's no time!
The Super Saiyan's aura flared in one desperate chance as the planet exploded in a brilliant flash of light. On Earth, a similar flash of light heralded the return of the heroes. During Kakarot's battle, they had travelled from Central City to where Coast City once stood.
Now what must we do to summon the life entity?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm surprised it didn't just show up the moment they were all brought together.
Wonder Woman arrived on the scene, and after a heartfelt reunion, they explained the situation to her.
So you currently hold 3 entities within you, correct?
Yeah, it actually doesn't feel that different from just the one.
The other Justice Leaguers looked at him in shock at this revelation, as each of them had barely managed to hold their own.
Then perhaps that is the key. These beings have not truly been brought together. To create life, they must need to be channeled through a single soul. You.
One by one, the Leaguers passed their entities into Kyle, except for Larfleeze, who required some convincing and a promise that it would eventually be returned. Kyle tried to harness the powers within him now, expecting something to happen. Anything. But nothing did. Before all this, Kyle might have asked for more advice, for more help, but he remembered Kakarot's last words to him, that there was nothing left for him to learn. Both he and Bruce had put their trust in him, so he had to do this. If the life entity would not be summoned, he would do it himself. Kyle followed both teachings of his 2 masters, emptied his mind, and just created, closing his fist, pouring all his energy into a single point. He opened it and created a white ring. He took off Hal's ring, for it had always been Hal's ring, and put on his own, becoming the first ever White Lantern.
Live.
In a sudden burst of blinding white energy, everyone that had died in the attack of the Saiyans was brought back in an instant. Civilians, heroes, and even the 2 Saiyans, Raditz and Nappa. Hal, being the closest to where the heroes were standing, was the first to have the events of the past few months detailed to him.
So, I guess you're the one to thank for all of this. Let's do this right.
Hal extended his hand to Kyle, who responded not as a rookie, but as an equal, slipping the ring back to its original owner as they shook.
Hal Jordan.
Kyle Rayner.
Thanks.
Thanks for loaning that to me.
As the resurrected began to embrace and celebrate, reporters quickly gathered on the scene, with Wonder Woman addressing them.
I know you're all confused. How could this have happened? The Justice League recently embarked on an odyssey, and did the impossible. But this was not without great cost. The heroes Batman and Kakarot Kent sacrificed their lives to make this happen, and we owe them more than we can possibly repay. The only way to make this right is to take this chance to follow in their example, to live as they did, to have the will to better themselves, to strike out with righteous fury and not hated injustices in the world around them. to know that any challenge, no matter how frightful, can be overcome with love and compassion. Even our most selfish desires can be directed with the hope of bettering ourselves. Their example, a life worth living.
Do you think he's really dead?
Well, if he is, Metropolis is going to need a new hero. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, Father.